Hello, this is a mortise chisel used to cut mortises. This is also a mortise chisel and it'll be used to cut mortises. This tool, we use this. This tool, we use this. It's a Grizzly G0448 Mortising machine. We'll see how that works. So today we're going to talk about making a mortise and tenon joint. And let's look at this mortise and tenon joint. Here's the tenon. You can see how it, this is a cutaway view, by the way. The tenon fits into the mortise, cut into this piece. And you can see a little gap at the bottom. This gap serves a couple purposes. For one thing, it can accept extra glue that we might have in there, so we don't have a problem with shoving this all the way in because of the glue. And also, it gives a bit of assurance that we will in fact be able to insert the tenon all the way into the mortise. It doesn't take away from the strength any degree, really any great degree. But you can see how we have a fairly tight deal. This is the shoulder of the tenon, is right here. And so first of all, let's cut a tenon and see how that's done. All right, I've measured the thickness of our piece that we're going to use for our tenon, and it measures 1.19 inches. Use the calipers to do that. Now I'm going to make a a half-inch wide tenon. So I'm subtracting 0.5 from the 1.19, and it comes with 0.69 inches. So that's the material that would be left over on each side. So I divide that by 2 to come up with 3.345. So I've set the blade height to a little bit more than 0.345 inches. And then I want my tenon to be an 1.5 inches long. So I've set the stop to 1.5 inches from the far side of the blade. And we can make the shoulder cuts right now. Now you see I cut the shoulder cuts the same depth all the way around. This is, well, what I call a symmetrical tenon. The tenon is centered in the piece of material here, and it also has the same distance from the sides as from the top and bottom as from the sides. That's very simple to cut. And let's go over a bandsaw and make the cheek cuts. Okay, now we're at the bandsaw. Remember that 0.345 we were talking about? That's what we want to cut now. So I'm going to use the calipers to set up this thing just as precisely as I can. And I'll set up the fence. That's pretty good. Set the calipers aside. All right, let's make those cheek cuts. And there's our tenon. Nice square shoulders. It's undercut here a little bit from the table saw, that's fine. And the width, let's measure the width. Let's see, I've got 490, so I'm within 1/100 of an inch or so of being correct. So that's pretty good. Not too hard to do if you just pay attention to details. Let's go lay out our mortise on our other piece. Thank you. All right, let's see if we can lay out the tenon. If we were to put this piece all the way at the top, we'd have to be pretty concerned about this little part here. So if we had to make an assembly like this, we might actually want to shorten the shorten the width of this tenon to give more material over here. But we're going to go ahead and set it down here a little ways, so we can we know the width of the mortise will be here. Now, the location of the mortise, a little trickier. What I'm going to do is use this gauge right here. This gauge has a flat bottom right there. Some of them have a little screw coming out, so you have to be a little careful, but I can just use this gauge to measure our distance there. Set it up in the gauge, and then I'll make a couple score marks. Again, we're doing an easy tenon here. It's symmetrical, so I can use the same measurement on both sides. And I'm going to use the pencil to darken up those scribe lines a little bit, make it easier to see. So this material right here is what we're going to cut out for the mortise. Now we want to cut it to a little bit deeper than the mortise, than the tenon itself. So what I'm going to do is use this as a gauge. This is one of the pieces that came off when we made the cheek cuts on the bandsaw. So I know it's about 1/8 inch shorter, so I can use this to set up our machine over there. And we want to leave, like I said, about 1/8 inch gap at the bottom of the tenon inside the mortise to make room for glue and for just to be sure. All right, let's go on over to the machine. All right, here's our mortising bit. You'll notice that it has a chisel on the outside and a drill bit on the inside. The drill bit removes the majority of the material, and the chisel squares up the hole. Now, what we've done, we've machined some collars that go on there. Normally, it's a problem setting the distance between the drill bit and the front of the chisel. You need a little gap in there, and that can be a problem. These collars help us out quite a bit. So to install this, first of all, I'm going to open up the side. I'll open up this side so you can see too. There's a drill chuck in here, and what I'm going to do is open up that drill chuck as wide as it'll go, or just about, and make sure I can put my chisel all the way up in there. There we go. So then I'm going to lock the chisel in place. Just a light locking right now. And I'm going to use the chuck key to tighten up the chuck. You want the chuck pretty firm. All right. We're done with the chuck, so I'm going to move this up. Now what I want to do, I'll just use our tenon piece right here. I want to square up the chisel with the table and the piece. Now there's two, this will tighten things down. This is to move it forward and backwards. So I'm going to move it backwards. I'm going to bring this down, and then I'll bring it forward until it touches the chisel. I'm going to loosen the chisel a little bit as I bring that forward, and just kind of a light amount of pressure. That assures that the bit will be square with the table. Okay, so now I can tighten up the bit again. Back that off a little bit. And I'll raise this back up. Now, see, next thing is to lock our piece in. Now, this is the mortise we're going to cut, so I'm going to lock that in there. Now, this thing is made to cut wide table legs, that sort of thing, so it doesn't have a lot of travel. So what you need to do is put something in there, space it out a little bit. We'll use our other piece and just tighten this down. Now, tighten this down pretty good, because when you're pulling up on the chisel, if it pulls up on the wood, it can actually damage the chisel, break the chisel. So make sure that's down, and make sure this is nice and tight. All right. Now I'm going to come over here to where chisel is and set that right there. Now we're going to set the depth of the cut. And like I said, I'm going to use this cheek piece, and the depth stop is right here, this device. So I'm going to run this nut up here. I can, this is kind of difficult with the, if you can see that, let me make sure the camera's, all right. So I can use this thing, like I said, as kind of a gauge. We've got our chisel down against the wood. So we want to set the stop probably about 3/8 of an inch below. 1/8 inch because it's 1/8 inch short, and 1/4 inch for the space we want to leave at the bottom. So we'll set that stop right there. And that's pretty good. It's better to have too much than too little. Too little can get you in trouble. All right, now let's line things up. I'm going to first of all set the position of this, of it going in and out with a small. Right down here. Look very carefully at that. See if it lines up. When it lines up, there's a locking handle over here on the right-hand side of the machine. So I'll just turn that, and that locks this table to make sure that it doesn't move back and forth at all. Now, using this big knob, I can move this back and forth. So what I'm going to do is cut the ends. Just kind of eyeballing that. I'm going to cut the ends of the mortise first, and then I'll clean out the material in between. Let's see how that goes. Let's take it kind of easy. I'm watching that stop that's back here. See, I'm taking little bites at a time. You have problems if you take too much depth at a time, because it takes a lot of force, like I said before, to pull that chisel out. So, all right, let's do the other end. All right, that's that. Now, you notice when I set the chisel in there, I put it with the open side toward the front. That's so that the chips, that sort of thing, will come out through the front. So I'm going to go ahead and take away the waste material in between. Getting quite a bit of waste material here. And then this is the last one right here. Now I can do is to get this away from the chisel, scrape away some of this stuff so I can see. And it looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and just come back in here and kind of go between where I'd been before, just to make sure I've got a good bottom on the hole, on the mortise. And that's all there is to it. Now, let's see how good we did. So let's go back here to the bench and see how well we did. There's our tenon we cut earlier and the mortise we just cut. I cleaned out the mortise using the air, compressed air. Did that in the sanding booth so the chips wouldn't fly all over the shop. And let's see how well they fit. That's pretty good. Nice and flush. All right, so there it is. And probably even a little bit tighter than what I would generally like. We'll go ahead and use this tool to help take us apart. All right, so there we are, mortise and tenon. Very simple, just take a few minutes to do it. And like I said, if you need to make this flush up here, then go ahead and, after you make your tenon, go ahead and cut off a little bit more here, so when you lay out your tenon, you'll have more material up there. You can imagine if this is very thin, that this would not be very strong. So you can make a, you can step down that tenon a little bit, and that'll help you out. But get down the machine, just kind of clean it up and put away the tools, and we're all set. Thanks a lot. Hi, I hope you enjoyed the video. This video was made primarily for the members of the MakerBarn to help them learn our equipment. There's many ways of making a mortise and tenon joint, and this is just one example. Anyway, if you'd like to learn more about the MakerBarn, visit our website. It's themakerbarn.org. We're a nonprofit makerspace located in north of the Houston area, near the Woodlands in Texas. Thank you for watching our video.